How's it going, everyone? Austin Honecker here. I just wanted to come on here for a while and give him a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite from last night, which was May 19th, 2021. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish. For the matches, match one, it was Christian Cage versus Matt Sydal. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Christian Cage went over with the kill switch, but after the match, Christian Cage helped Matt Sydal up and gave him a hug, and Matt Sydal bowed to Christian Cage out of respect to him, and Christian Cage signaled for Taz to come into the ring because he wanted to beat the shit out of him, and Taz was talking all kinds of shit, and Ricky Starks came out, and Ricky Starks had the microphone and was saying that he wasn't gonna that Taz was his own man, and he was his own man, and he wasn't gonna be on the sidelines or anything. And Ricky Starks also signaled for Brian Cage, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Hook to come out and beat the shit out of Christian Cage and Matt Sydal. So Brian Cage, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Hook came out and attacked both Christian Cage and Matt Sydal from behind, and Hook beat the shit out of Matt Sydal, and Brian Cage and Powerhouse Hobbs ganged up on Christian Cage and beat the shit out of him. Well, Hangman Page came out, gave Ricky Starks his cup of beer. Hangman Page got in the ring and was beating the shit out of Brian Cage and Powerhouse Hobbs, and Brian Cage got a little bit of offense in on Hangman Page, but Hangman Page kept beating the shit out of Powerhouse Hobbs and Brian Cage, and Hook came back into the ring after beating the shit out of Matt Sydal, and Hook executed a chop block to Hangman Page, and after that, Brian Cage executed a power bomb to Hangman Page, laying him out. So Christian Cage, Hangman Page, and Matt Sydal were laid out, and Ricky Starks came in the ring and drank Hangman Page's beer, and so Team Taz, which are Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Hook, stood tall and celebrated, which that was cool. Match 2, it was Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston went over because Jon Moxley pinned Anthony Bowens with a wheelbarrow paradigm shift combination from Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. Well, before the match, after Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston came out, The Acclaimed came out, and Max Caster done a rap on Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston, and Anthony Bowens was getting ready to do his signature line of saying AEW The Acclaimed have arrived, but Jon Moxley sucker punched Anthony Bowens and was beating the shit out of him, while Eddie Kingston was beating the shit out of Max Caster before the match started, which that was cool. Match 3, it was Hikaru Shida versus Rebel. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Hikaru Shida went over with a stretch muffler, but after the match, Britt Baker attacked Hikaru Shida from behind, beating the shit out of her, and Britt Baker executed the curb stomp to Hikaru Shida on the AEW Women's title, and Britt Baker stood tall while holding the AEW Women's title up high and everything, which that was cool. Match 4, it was Serena Deeb versus Red Velvet for the NWA Women's title. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Serena Deeb went over and retained the NWA Women's title with the Serenity Lock. Match 5, it was Anthony Ogogo versus Austin Gunn. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Anthony Ogogo went over by referee stoppage because Anthony Ogogo executed a pop-up knockout punch to Austin Gunn and knocked him out. Well, after the match, as the rest of the members of the factory, which are QT Marshall, Aaron Solo, and Nick Camarado, were out of the ring, and Anthony Ogogo was still in the ring, Cody Rhodes and Arn Anderson came in the ring to check on Austin Gunn, and Anthony Ogogo snatched Cody Rhodes' United States of America, the American flag, and Cody Rhodes got it back, but Cody Rhodes and Anthony Ogogo had a stare down, getting in each other's faces, but all the referees had to come out and intervene and get between them and everything, which that was cool. Yeah, that was after the match, by the way. And match 6, which was the main event, it was the Young Bucks, which are Matt and Nick Jackson, versus the Varsity Blondes, which are Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, for the AEW Tag Team titles. That was a great match, but the ending to it, the Young Bucks went over and retained the AEW Tag Team titles because Matt Jackson made Brian Pillman Jr. tap out to the sharpshooter. Well, after the match, as the Young Bucks were celebrating and Don Callis and Brandon Cutler were in the ring celebrating with them, Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston came out, and Don Callis and Brandon Cutler retreated, and Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston ended up beating the shit out of the Young Bucks, and Jon Moxley choked Matt Jackson out with the sleeper hold, and Eddie Kingston choked Nick Jackson out with the rear naked choke, and Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston stole the Young Bucks' sneakers and everything, which that was cool. But besides the matches, the Varsity Blondes, which are Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, along with Julia Hart, cut a promo, and Brian Pillman Jr. was pretty much going on about how the Young Bucks talked about his father, the late great Brian Pillman Sr., saying how that's how he broke in the business and everything, but Brian Pillman Jr. was pretty much saying that his father, the late great Brian Pillman Sr., wasn't the reason why he got into the business. That was the reason he stayed away from the business, because of the dark side of the ring. And Brian Pillman Jr. was also saying that the Young Bucks were the reason why he came into the business of professional wrestling. And Griff Garrison went on and was saying that back in September 2018, he ran a merch table at an indie event for the Young Bucks and said, fast forward to 2021 and AEW, they're not the same Young Bucks that they were, and that they needed a reality check and everything. And then Brian Pillman Jr. was talking about how him and Griff Garrison were going to beat the Young Bucks and take the AEW Tag Team titles from them and everything, which that was cool. Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston cut a promo talking about inviting the Acclaimed. Well, Jon Moxley was talking about inviting the Acclaimed to a super kick party and everything, but Eddie Kingston was saying that they didn't have no super kick party because he don't throw no super kicks, and neither does Jon Moxley. And so Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston were going on saying how they were going to beat the bricks off the Acclaimed and everything, which that was cool. The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, cut a promo talking about how Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston were taking up space in the tag team division and everything, and also talked about how they were going to beat Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston and everything, which that was cool. Chris Jericho and Dean Malenko were backstage talking, and Alex Marvez popped up to interview Chris Jericho, and Alex Marvez asked Chris Jericho if the Inner Circle was going to accept the Pinnacle's offer to face them in a Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing 3, and Chris Jericho was telling Alex Marvez, "Alex, I appreciate you coming up to me and asking me, but just like everybody else, you're just going to have to wait till later on, and you better leave, or because you don't want to make the man of 1,000 holds, Dean Malenko, mad." So Alex Marvez left, and Dean Malenko was pretty much correcting Chris Jericho, saying that Chris Jericho had more holds than himself, Dean Malenko, did. Chris Jericho was saying that he forgot a few and everything, which that was cool. Tony Schiavone interviewed Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, and Tony Schiavone was pretty much saying that, talking about how Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page were responsible for ending Darby Allin's reign as the AEW TNT champion and everything, and then asked him questions about Sting and Darby Allin, and Scorpio Sky was going on about how he was a big fan of Sting when he was a kid and wanted to be just like him and everything, and now that he's an adult, he's his own man, and he was going to put Sting down again and everything. And Ethan Page got on the microphone and made Tony Schiavone leave, so Ethan Page was going on about Darby Allin, saying that he took away what he caused Darby Allin to lose what meant the world to him, and Ethan Page was also talking about how he was going to be the nail in Darby Allin's coffin and everything. Well, the lights went out, and Sting came out and distracted Darby Allin, and Sting came out and distracted Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, and Darby Allin came in from behind and attacked Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page with his skateboard, and Sting got in the ring and started beating the shit out of Scorpio Sky, and Darby Allin was beating the shit out of Ethan Page with his skateboard, and Darby Allin held Ethan Page away while Sting executed the Scorpion Deathlock on Scorpio Sky, and so Scorpio Sky, after Sting let go of the Scorpion Deathlock, after Sting let go of the Scorpion Deathlock, Scorpio Sky retreated from the ring, and Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page were getting ready to leave from the entrance tunnels, but on the right, Alex Reynolds, 5 and 10 were on the right side, and Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, and Colt Cabana were on the left side. Keeping them from going backstage. So Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page retreated while the Dark Order were still on the stage, and Sting and Darby Allin were still in the ring, standing tall, while Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page ran from the audience and everything, which that was cool. The Pinnacle, which are MJF, Wardlow, Shawn Spears, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, and Tully Blanchard, were in the ring, were at a restaurant, and MJF was going on. Well, Wardlow drank a whole bottle of wine and asked for another bottle. Well, MJF was going on saying how Chris Jericho's insults to him have been are like first grade insults, calling the Pinnacle the pineapple, calling MJF, well, Chris Jericho calling the Pinnacle the pineapple and calling MJF my jerk-off friend and saying he can soak them all in some bubbly and everything. And Dax Harwood was saying that Chris Jericho has made a mock that. Well, Dax Harwood was saying that that they shouldn't have to be dealing with the Inner Circle. That the Pinnacle should be should have every championship in AEW. And Dax Harwood was talking about how Chris Jericho has made a mockery out of the business for 30 years, out of the business of professional wrestling for 30 years, and was saying that last year's match between the Elite, which were Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, Hangman Page, and Matt Hardy versus the Inner Circle, which are Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, Santana, and Ortiz. That match last year in the Stadium Stampede at Double or Nothing 2 was a dog and pony show, but this year, the Pinnacle were in control. Well, Shawn Spears got pissed off because the server wasn't pouring his wine cup because he wanted pouring wine in his glass because he wanted a drink. Well, Shawn Spears grabbed the server and slammed his head into the table and held him down, and Tully Blanchard calmed Shawn Spears down, and Shawn Spears let go of the server, and Tully Blanchard tipped the server, and MJF was trying to calm Shawn Spears down too, telling him he was okay, and so Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler gave Shawn Spears the rest of their wine so he could have a drink. And then MJF was going on insulting the Inner Circle some more and everything, which that was cool. The best friends, which are Trent, Chuck Taylor, Orange Cassidy, and Chris Statlander, were backstage in the trainer's room along with Doc Samson, and Orange Cassidy had an ice pack on him and everything, but Kenny Omega and Don Callis appeared in the trainer's room, and they asked Trent, Chuck Taylor, and Chris Statlander if they could leave so they could have some time alone with Orange Cassidy. So Trent, Chuck Taylor, and Chris Statlander left the trainer's room, and Kenny Omega and Don Callis were pretty much trying to weasel their way out of Orange Cassidy being in the AEW title match at Double or Nothing 3, and everything. And Don Callis gave Orange Cassidy a contract to back out of the match at Double or Nothing 3, but we'll get a future AEW title shot sometime down the road. Orange Cassidy ripped it up and threw it down, and Kenny Omega and Don Callis got pissed. Well, Don Callis gave Orange Cassidy another copy, and Don Callis was pretty much telling Orange Cassidy to have some time to think about it and everything. And Kenny Omega, like, he was all pissed off because he was trying to talk to him as an executive vice president, wanting him to be the mascot of AEW, and also wanting him to back out of the match because as a performer he was going to lay him out with the one-winged angel and everything. Well, after Don Callis gave Orange Cassidy the contract and everything, well, Kenny Omega and Don Callis left, and while Orange Cassidy had the contract in his hand, and Doc Samson shook his head and everything, which that was cool. The Inner Circle, which are Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, and Ortiz, came out and cut a promo, and Ortiz was saying he was ready to fight. Sammy Guevara was saying that he was wanting that until the Inner Circle get what they want in facing the Pinnacle at Double or Nothing 3 in that Stadium Stampede match or whatever, that this war wasn't over and everything. And well, Jake Hager was going on saying how the Inner Circle have been the baddest since the first episode of AEW Dynamite, been the baddest group since the first episode of AEW Dynamite, and then was going on talking shit about the Pinnacle, saying that they were schoolgirl bitches and that they were going to annihilate them at Double or Nothing 3 and everything. And Chris Jericho was saying that after MJF threw him off the stage at off the cage onto the stage at Blood and Guts, was it worth it? because he almost hit his head on the stage, and it scared his wife and kids and the fans and everything. And Chris Jericho was talking about the match with the Pinnacle, if the Inner Circle accepts or not, because where it'll be the Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle in a Stadium Stampede match, and if the Inner Circle lose, they'll have to break up forever. Well, Chris Jericho took MJF up on that offer, and Chris Jericho and the rest of the Inner Circle, which are Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, and Ortiz, accepted the match. And Chris Jericho also informed the fans and everybody in AEW that Santana will be back next week and everything, which that was cool. Tony Schiavone interviewed Jade Cargill, and Tony Schiavone was pretty much asking Jade Cargill who her boss was going to be, and Jade Cargill was saying, "Tony, how many times do I have to tell you I'm my own boss?" And Mark Sterling came along and was saying that he didn't want Jade Cargill to work for him, he wanted to work for her. And he knew that, and he was talking about how Matt Hardy and Vicky Guerrero already have women in their stables, and Taz pretty much named his group after himself and everything. And Jade Cargill was saying that what she wanted from Mark Sterling was for him not to interrupt her time, and told him to leave, and that she would think about told him that she would think about his offer, and told him to leave. And so Mark Sterling left, and Jade Cargill was asking Tony Schiavone who that guy was, and Tony Schiavone had no clue and everything, which that was cool. Alex Marvez interviewed Pac, and Pac was going off about saying how he's gotten screwed out of every opportunity in AEW, and saying that he was going to knock the shit out of the Elite, and he was going to take the AEW title away from Kenny Omega and everything, which that was cool. Alex Marvez interviewed Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, and Alex Marvez asked Christopher Daniels if he was done in the ring or if he was not done in the ring, and Christopher Daniels walked off, shook Frankie Kazarian's hand and whispered something in his ear and left. And then Frankie Kazarian was talking about how last week he had something precious, he had something that meant the world to him being taken away, and how he feels like his heart's been ripped out of his chest, and was talking about how he was going to he was going to hunt down every member of the Elite, which are Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson, Michael Nakazawa, Brandon Cutler, and Don Callis, and was talking about how he was going to hunt them down and beat the shit out of them and show them what it's like to see how it feels about having something ripped out of his chest and everything, which that was cool. And Miro came out and cut a promo, and Miro was talking about how he annihilated Darby Allin last week and won the AEW TNT title and everything. And Lance Archer and Jake the Snake Roberts came out, and Lance Archer was telling Miro to shut the hell up, and that at Double or Nothing 3, he was going to take the AEW TNT title away from him, and he was looking forward to it because two big guys going at it like Godzilla and Kong, and was saying that he was going to make, and Lance Archer was saying that he was going to make Miro his Bulgarian bitch, and Miro got on the microphone and was saying, "Unlike you, Lance Archer, I don't need an old man holding me back, because the difference between me and you, I destroy guys on my own. I don't need an old man backing me away from a fight. And you say everybody dies, and that's true. but you Lance Archer will be the first one that dies. And also in that, before Lance Archer came out, Miro was talking about how he was going to defend the AEW TNT title next week on AEW Dynamite and everything, which all that was cool. That whole promo was. Well, Miro was also talking about how he would destroy Jake the Snake Roberts if he got near him and everything in that promo as well, which that was cool as well. But besides all that, Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. Taz done guest commentary along with Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur during the match between Christian Cage versus Matt Sydal. Taz done great on guest commentary, and Don Callis done guest commentary along with Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur during the match between the Young Bucks versus the Varsity Blondes for the AEW Tag Team titles. And Don Callis done great on guest commentary. The referees for the event were Rick Knox, Paul Turner, Bryce Remsburg, and Aubrey Edwards. Okay. Paul Turner refereed the match between Christian Cage versus Matt Sydal. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus The Acclaimed. Paul Turner refereed the match between Hikaru Shida versus Rebel. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Serena Deeb versus Red Velvet for the NWA Women's title. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Anthony Ogogo versus Austin Gunn. And Rick Knox refereed the match between the Young Bucks versus the Varsity Blondes for the AEW Tag Team titles. All the referees done awesome as usual. Now, the match card for next week's next week AEW Dynamite, instead of being aired on Wednesday, it'll be aired on Friday, May 28th, 2021. So the match card for next Friday's AEW Dynamite, it's going to be Miro versus Dante Martin for the AEW TNT title. The Dark Order, which are Evil Uno and Stu Grayson versus Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. Darby Allin versus Cesar Bononi. Hangman Page versus... the match card for next Friday's AEW Dynamite, it's going to be Miro versus Dante Martin for the AEW TNT title. Hangman Page versus Joey Janela. The Dark Order, which are Evil Uno and Stu Grayson versus Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. Darby Allin versus Cesar Bononi. And Jade Cargill will issue an open challenge to any woman on the AEW roster. Now, besides the matches that have been announced for AEW Dynamite next Friday, Cody Rhodes and Anthony Ogogo will have a weigh-in ahead of their match against each other at Double or Nothing 3. The Inner Circle, which are Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, Santana, and Ortiz, will have a celebration. Hikaru Shida will celebrate her 1-year anniversary as the AEW Women's Champion. Orange Cassidy will appear live and give his response to Kenny Omega about the AEW title match at Double or Nothing 3. And AEW will be announcing the match for the pre-show at Double or Nothing 3. So the match card for next week's AEW Dynamite looks like it's going to be awesome. But now the match card for AEW Double or Nothing 3, it's going to be Kenny Omega versus Pac versus Orange Cassidy in a the match card for AEW's Double or Nothing 3, it's going to be Kenny Omega versus Pac versus Orange Cassidy in a three-way match for the AEW title. The Young Bucks, which are Matt and Nick Jackson versus Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston for the AEW Tag Team titles. Miro versus Lance Archer for the AEW TNT title. Hikaru Shida versus Britt Baker for the AEW Women's title. Sting and Darby Allin versus Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. The Inner Circle, which are Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, Santana, and Ortiz versus The Pinnacle, which are MJF, Wardlow, Shawn Spears, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler in a Stadium Stampede match. Let me see. Hangman Page versus Brian Cage. Let me see. Cody Rhodes versus Anthony Ogogo in a 21-man casino battle royal to determine the number one contender for the AEW title sometime down the road. And the contestants in that match are Christian Cage, Matt Sydal, Powerhouse Hobbs, Matt Hardy, Mark Quinn, Isaiah Cassidy, The Blade, Evil Uno, 10, Colt Cabana, Jungle Boy, Max Caster, Anthony Bowens, Brian Pillman Jr., Griff Garrison, Dustin Rhodes, Lee Johnson, QT Marshall, Nick Camarado, Pena El Cerro Miedo, and a mystery opponent. And it was also announced that Paul White will be doing guest commentary for the 21-man Casino Battle Royal. So, those are the match card. That's the match card that's been announced for AEW's Double or Nothing 3. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a while and give them a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite from last night, which was May 19th, 2021. I gotta say it was awesome from start to finish. Like I said, it was awesome from start to finish. And with that being said, my name is Austin Honecker, and I will catch your ass down the road.